I didn't really audition for the role. Jamie Simone and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn called me in one day, and they gave me a line number to go to, and they said, do that. Because it was like, if you're shocked that I'm playing somebody who's 6'8", 380 pounds, thank you.
Clearly, those are the people who are my intellectual inferiors. I feel bad for them because they don't have the smarts of the Riddler.
Voltron, and it was like I couldn't write him back and say, sorry, Jack, I can't sign your petition because I got it.
You're watching convention coverage.
Are you sure you're going to be able to hold the signal without the rabbit ears?
No. My hair is finally dry.
Oh, okay. I was just making an old TV reference.
Yes. There it is. We have.
Yeah, you know what?
We have gun will travel. It's coming in good. It's coming in clear.
I've decided that the way to.
That's a really old joke from the old days. Of course, rabbit ears are back now. People are cutting the cord on cable, and they're getting rabbit ears to get their local channels.
Well, yeah, no, you get a digital antenna, but they're not the rabbit ears. I figured out a couple of years ago, if you really wanted to mess with a young person, you would get an old TV and just turn the vertical hold button.
Right. If you really want to mess with a person, give them a rotary phone and tell them to make a call. If you really want to mess with a young person,
ask them why we use the term hang up the phone.
Yeah. Or you give them a clock with actual numbers on it. And
I just saw a video where they did that. I was like, can high school kids read a clock? And this guy was like, what time is it? And he did it with like 12 kids and none of them
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah.
Now write
analog clock.
Yeah,
Nobody
now
knew.
write cursive. Good luck.
That was a joke too.
Though,
Is the millennial anti-theft device was a sticker.
Alrighty, so do you have any questions that you would like to start off with, sir?
I don't really have any questions myself. I would hopefully save time for them. And
Rob's
like
got
you
a
said, you're going to interview Wally, but I want to thank you guys for both being in Transformers. I mean, Optimus Prime, Sideburn, good old Robots in Disguise days, and they still have not put that out in a collected set.
I know.
Well, that was a rights issue.
Yeah.
Because midway through the production of that show, Disney bought Saban. And since it was, my understanding is since it was airing on Fox Kids, they had part of the rights and Saban had part of the rights. So back in those days, it was essentially Disney and Fox going, yeah, we'll talk if there's a 7 figures attached.
Jeez.
But with that show, I don't think 7 figures was going to be attached.
Hey, Optimus, I saw this really cool red sports car on the freeway.
I wish I could remember the rest of that scene.
I was just improving. I'm pretty sure we had something where probably.
Yeah, Sideburn was always looking at other cars.
Yeah,
he's always
which is
checking
kind of
out.
funny. Has anybody ever seen, because it's not on DVD as he mentioned, anybody ever seen Robots in Disguise, the old 2001? You have, really? Back in 2001, that was considered the redheaded stepchild of the Transformers franchise, because the Transformers fans of the day thought it was a sacrilege and thought it was a dopey little kids cartoon, and nobody seemed to really like it. So when they asked me to come sign, you were out of town, but they asked me to sign at a Transformers thing in Burbank recently. I said, nobody's into that show. Everybody hates that show. What are you talking about? Oh, no, it has a following now.
Yeah.
Really? So I show up for 3 hours, and people are in the line. I'm like, you like this show? Oh, I love this show. I said, really? I said, how old are you? I'm 27. Oh, so you were 6 years old when it came out. Yeah. Now I get it. Enough time has passed now for them. And they often say Neil is their first Optimus Prime, and that was their first gateway into the Transformers franchise. So I guess it took us 20 years, but we finally...
But the other thing that you'll hear is a lot of people who collect the Transformer toys will tell you that they think that Robots in Disguise was the last really good series of toys.
They were good.
They talk about the quality of the plastic. They talk about the quality of the joints, the ease of the transforming. And so literally...
And that was like the first combiner Optimus Prime, too.
Right. But it's funny. You go to eBay, find one of the Optimus Primes, the big ones, in box. It's like $200, $220.
Oh, easy.
Signed by Neil Kaplan, $90.
You actually decreased its value.
I definitely decreased the value.
Well, the hard one to get is when Sam's Club or Costco did the Optimus and the Ultra Magnus. and the Optimus was done in yellow,
Yes,
and
I know.
Ultra Magnus was done in black and white, and those sell for $300-400 a piece.
Yep, you got to get yourself a ketchup Optimus Prime and a mustard Optimus Prime.
There you go. Red Optimus, yellow
Keep
Optimus.
them on the table for when you have a corn dog outside.
Is there a favorite or particular, like, any part that you like, you know, in Bleach, like whether it was like the soundtracks or your lines or anything that like stood out to you guys that, you know, that you honestly adore, that you applied, or anything, you know, of Bleach?
I absolutely adore when the checks show up. That's what I like.
Yeah, I would have to say for me, it all goes back to Yamamoto's abs. That they should have their own show.
Neil will probably agree with me that the best part of doing all the anime, because it's traditionally known, we're not giving away any secrets here, that anime does not pay very well to dub it. It's horrible money, but we do it because we love it, and because we love the people who produce it, and Jamie Simone and all the people behind the scenes. We love the engineers. We love all the people we get to work with because it's fun. Nobody gets into anime because they hate it. They get it. They do it because the money's so horrible. You don't go into it for the money. You do it because you absolutely love it. And the unintended consequence of the whole anime world is we get to be here and meet you people, which is really the big bonus for us.
Yeah, and you know, for shows like Bleach and Naruto that we did years ago, it's, you know, it's a wonderful little blessing, because it's like we've lived with the anonymity for years, or the quiet conventions or the quiet lines or whatever, and then to see the love that Naruto has gotten over the is incredible. And there's, I think for me at least, there's something about the time and the distance that makes me even more appreciative when somebody wants to say hello or says, "You're my favorite villain," you know, or anything like that. KG Tang once posted, if you do voices in anime and anyone goes to YouTube and argues that you may be better than the original Japanese voice, you know you're a success. So I wrote back, I'm a success. Because there are people all the time who kind of say, you know, it's 1-2, it's 1-2. You know, but I got to tell you, if you like what I did as Madara Uchiha, one of the main reasons is I didn't really audition for the role. Jamie Simone and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn called me in one day. They had me look at a script. They made me listen to Naoya Uchida, the original Japanese actor. And they gave me a line number to go to, and they said, do that. Do an English-speaking version of that. So if you liked what I did, saying, you know, nothing ever goes as planned in this accursed world, that's because I listened to the original. I went, this is my version of that. So if I ever meet the man, I will definitely have to buy him a cocktail or two.
It was completely opposite for Renji. I had no reference to the Japanese at all. They didn't want him to sound like the Japanese guy.
That's
they
always
just wanted
fun.
something original. So I look at just this little sketch of Renji on the piece of paper. You go in, there's probably 3 or 4 paragraphs with the character's lines, and up in the corner, remember the old days when we had paper? Paper!
Dead
Wow,
trees.
what a concept back in rotary phone days and pager days. And I saw this character that looked like, with the eyebrows and everything, and I said, oh, he looks like a young Nicholson, like a young Jack Nicholson. Mm-hmm. So I gave him a little bit of Jack Nicholson in Renji. I'm Renji Abarai, Sparky, from the 13 court guard squads, here to kick your... So I thought, well, that might be kind of a cool way to go. So they did it, they cast me. And then there was all sorts of posts. Never read the posts online about them. So they said, "Oh no, there's a cartoon voice actor guy who does cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons, and he's going to be the voice of Renji. It's not going to be hot anymore, oh boy." And they said, and the quote on the internet was, and I still printed it out and sent it to the FBI, but it said, "Anybody named Wally should be shot."
Wow.
Yeah. And I printed that out and I sent it to the FBI and. I responded. I said, I'm Wally Wingert, and I don't think your comment's very funny, and I've reported your post to the thing. So I still keep it in my car in case I'm ever shot. And I can grab that and go, see? So, yeah, some of the people are rather kind of mean out there, and which has really quite turned me off to a lot of aspects of the internet, a lot of what I call cesspool media. You call it social media. I call it cesspool media. I try not to be too involved in the cesspool media world, other than just maybe posting an occasional picture of a Muppet I'm building, or a cartoon character that I'm watching, or some breakfast cereal I'm eating, or something like that. But other than that, I'm not a big fan of that whole thing. And I still have my flip phone, so I'm really terribly not into the technology. So. Did I mention I have a rotary phone still at home? So yes. Kermit the Frog is part of it, but it's still kind of a thing. So yes.
See, and I'm on the other end of that, where I love the social media. Yeah, there are critics. Okay, great. But I've also managed to stay in touch with fans. I've been able to every now and then hear from some people and help out, maybe some advice, or send a voice message or something like that. I got to be honest, one of the things that I'm really oddly proud of is my 142 5-star reviews on Cameo.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, because I want to make it individual and I want to make it unique, like the people who are contacting me, and so I have fun with it. And so to see that fun works and that people enjoy it, it's like cool.
Somebody paid hundreds of dollars for a Chuck Norris cameo,
right?
And it ended up looking like a hostage video. Hi, I'm Chuck Norris. Happy birthday to Steve. Thank you, Steve, for all of your support. It looked like it was like somebody was off camera holding a gun to his head.
No, I have a good time with it. I try to have a good time with it. And yeah, there are the critics and there are the people who, and I've definitely developed the muscle of ignoring that, because everybody has an opinion.
Yep.
And they have their right to it, you know.
But seriously, just be kind.
That helps.
Just be kind.
That helps. I used to do TikTok lives, and I'm going to go back to them, but I used to end them with, do me a favor, when you have the opportunity, be kind to someone. And do me another favor, when you get the opportunity, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you can be kind to yourself, and I'm not talking about spoiling ourselves, I'm talking about actually giving yourself a break and being kind. When you're kind to yourself, it's easier to be kind to someone else. You know, I want to tell a quick little story for these two folks out there that are cosplaying from Voltron. You know that the original Voltron back in the 80s included, Jack Angel.
Yeah, the great Jack Angel, who just passed away last year.
Jack Angel was the voice of King Zarkon. Well, I happened to audition for the new version, and I landed the role of Emperor Zarkon. And after we recorded our first episode, I got an email from Jack, and it included a link to what are the thing that they want signatures? Pardon? Yeah, no. Where you're getting a list of signatures. Thank you. He had a petition. Thank you.
Petition. Yeah.
So he had a petition going to get the role of Zarkon in the new Voltron, and it was like I couldn't write him back and say, sorry, Jack, I can't sign your petition because I got it. You know, but it's really interesting because they were very specific about, don't go and listen to the original show. Yeah. Don't watch it. We don't want you to do anything like that. Yeah. We want what you did, which is basically like an animal, you know. So I had a lot of fun doing that. It was nice to be in the room with Cree Summer, you know, and that talented group, and just for the two of you, Vrepitsa. Alrighty.
How did you feel about doing like the Naruto album where you were rapping? How did you feel about that?
I wouldn't quite call what I did rapping, but that's very kind of you. For those of you who don't know, there was a hip-hop album that was put together, a Naruto-based hip-hop album by a hip-hop artist by the name of Big Lug. Biglugg. And the stuff he wrote for me was so good. It was so well written that I was able to pick up on the rhythm just reading it.
Yeah.
And I did 2 takes and then a whole lot of dance. Dance with me. And he just cut it into a really fun, it's like I want to go into a club sometime and hear them playing that and just that's me. But no, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. And I love Yuri's track. And mine too, but did you enjoy it?
I did.
Thank you.
I listened to it with my sister.
What's wrong with listening to it?
I didn't say that it's from me.
No, but thank you. And what's your favorite?
Your favorite song, the song that you
dance?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just found out today that Mr. Wally did a voice for Mr. Gold and Mr. Silver in the game God Hand. So I was curious to see, outside of your usual anime roles, what was some of your favorite games to voice act in?
Well, obviously the Riddler in the Arkham series was just being in the Batman franchise for me as a lifetime Batman fan was just beyond. I was over the moon.
And to kind of add on that question, how do you feel about the people who completely don't do any of the Riddler's side content or try to go for any of the just leave him in the hole in Arkham?
All 200.
City? Yeah.
Hey,
how do you feel about the people who just want to leave him in the hole?
Clearly, those are the people who are my intellectual inferiors. I feel bad for them because they don't have the smarts of the Riddler. I'll stop.
My usual answer is I love them all for one reason or another, with the singular exception of a game I worked on called Mafia 3, where I played a racist. And in order for the game to work, in order for anything to work, you have to play it 100%. And you can't put yourself above the material and you can't put yourself above the story. So I had to say words I never wanted to have come out of my face. And I had to mean them or act like I meant them or at least have it feel to the... And that was not fun. And it was literally like, if I could have at the studio, I would have taken a shower immediately after each session. But I literally went outside and did what our dogs would do and shook it off and just went
and vomited.
Just went ugh. And I didn't like it. But it's like favorites would include Hawkman. It's just a fun voice to do, after all. Dak is J. Finley from StarCraft 2. And look, anytime people hear one of my characters and say, "You're white?" or wait, how come you're so small? When I was introduced as Tychus Finley, they did a pay-per-view around the world and people posted on the internet, who is that twerp voicing Tychus? And it was the first time in my life that I took the term twerp as a compliment, because it was like, if you're shocked that I'm playing somebody who's 6'8", 380 pounds, thank you. But those are a few. Thank you.
Well, back to Neil's thing about what I consider verbal nudity. If you are auditioning for an on-camera role, they have to disclose up front that there's nudity involved. It's just kind of the rule. However, if you're going to take a voiceover job and there are going to be words in there you don't want to say, that doesn't necessarily, in the old days, they're better at it now. They don't disclose whether it's going to be tough on your voice, if there's going to be vocal stress, or if there's going to be words that some people, like myself, choose not to say. So I turned down a lot of jobs in the early days. I still kind of do, for gambling, alcohol, any bad words, and certainly any of the things that I just wouldn't take the jobs. I'm like, I don't need to work that bad. I don't need that on my conscience. I just don't. And my friend Dan Roebuck is a very famous on-camera character actor, and he's the complete opposite. Dude, it's a character. It's not me saying this. It's a character. Yeah, but it's still my mouth. It's still my lips. It's still my tongue. It's still my vocal cords saying this. I just don't want to put that out there.
And on a certain level, you're also respecting the storyteller and saying, I may very well come at this with less than 100%.
Yep.
And as an actor who has integrity, I don't want to do that. But I also want to respect what you're doing and not cheat you. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I admire that.
There was an audition. I've just started in the business, so I was really hungry for work. But there was an audition for Goodwill Hunting, where they needed guys to come in and do ADR. And there was a scene where Will Hunting and the other guy are in the car, and they see these guys, this woman on the street, and they go, "Oh, let's go fight." So they wanted the voices of the guys on the street, the girl, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, "Hey, baby, come over here. I got something you want." And the guy said, no, don't really get crude. Really, just let her. I'm like, not my thing, but thank you for the opportunity. See you later. And another guy named Dave Fouquet, he said, yeah, not my thing either. So little by little, the 4 or 5 actors they brought in, they've already lost 2 of them because they're like, yeah, it's kind of not my thing. So I guess the other 3 guys said, oh, I'll say anything you want.
Absolutely,
they took the job,
sure.
But I walked out and shook Dave's hand, and I said, thank you so much for backing me up on that. But yeah, sometimes it's just not for you, But whatever. So
Thank you very much.
thank you. That went way off subject.
No, that's important stuff. I mean, the stuff that you guys do either on a personal level, your beliefs. I mean, that affects you, what you do. It affects it's your work ethic, and that can show strength of character. And that's stuff that I honestly I've been doing this moderating panels for 11 years, and no one's ever talked about that before.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because I figured if my mom or dad ever happened to hear, I don't know if they'd never play video games, but if they just happened to hear in passing something like that, I wouldn't be cool necessarily with that.
I just wanted to know if you guys ever had like a scare where like you got like a sore throat or you blew your voice out and you were like, man.
Every month. Every month of my life.
I'm terrible when it comes to like vocal health and warm-ups. I pretty much go, and if I can do that, I'm okay. So I think they're made out of steel or whatever. I did have one time that I lost my voice. I went in to do a video game. It was Taggis Finley was getting moved over to Heroes of the Storm, a new game, and they wanted to put a new skin on him. So they wanted him to sound as though he had been infested by the Zerg. And so I'm at LA Studios, and there's this thing when the people in the control room are talking to you while you're recording, there's a talkback button. So that, they can take it off and then have their private conversation. And what I tell my students is whenever you see people going, the story we make up in our own mind is they hate me. And I said, no. The story you should make up in your mind is what took you so long to bring them in? They're brilliant. I love this guy. You've wasted my entire day. It's like give yourself an empowering story.
Or they're fighting over how many, which take they want to use.
Right.
I like the A take, it's brilliant. No, the B take is brilliant. No, the C take. Give them so much stuff they can't decide on what to pick. Yeah.
More than likely, they're just arguing about whether they're going to get something from Porto's or not.
Yep, exactly right. They're arguing about what to have for lunch. I want Chinese. No, I want Italian.
So the engineer didn't take his finger off the talkback button, and I heard him say to the director, we're going to put an effect on this in post, right? And I went, excuse me, why don't you wait until you hear what I do? I took it as a personal challenge. And it ends up, I did this thing. They loved it. They didn't use any effects, and I destroyed my voice. And that's when I got home and discovered that
doctor, not new to vocal cords.
The sound is from here.
So I talked to my wife like this the entire rest of the day. She hated that dog. She was like, take that dog and shove him up here. Shut up! You're driving me crazy.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's vocal. It's very important to keep that instrument. Like Dizzy Gillespie, I always say, who was a famous jazz trumpeter, didn't take his instrument and kick it down the end of the street. He took very good care of it. It was polished and aligned and whatever they do with a trumpet, because that was his living. So there's a whole regimen of like vocal health stuff that a lot of us do, including sinus cleansing. gargling, lozenges, especially coming to an event like this, health for your immune system, bolstering that. By the way, Nicholas, remind me, I got to take my booster or immune stuff when I go.
Do you do straw phonation at all?
Do what?
Straw phonation? Basically use a straw and do vocal exercises? Just from you saying...
No, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
I'm more into the physiology of vocal health because it's like I always explain. When they say, I can do a lot of different voices. Well, you realize that your voice isn't just this. The vocal chamber is all the way from your sinus all the way down to here. This is your vocal instrument. I equate it to Eddie Van Halen, great guitarist for Van Halen, the band Van Halen. Eddie has his guitar, he has his amplifier, and he has the plug that he plugs into the wall to amplify, which is here. This is your power structure, this is your instrument, and this is the resonance chamber, his amplifier, by which you hear everything coming out. So all three of them have to work together. Unplugged, Eddie's great, but you wouldn't hear what he's doing. You need the power, you need the amplifier, and his guitar playing. They all have to work in cohesion. So take care of all of this. Sinus all the way down to your diaphragm because it all works. For a while, I realized that because my ear, nose, and throat doctor is on speed dial. So I go, Dr. Jill, I've got this. So I found out that I was sleeping on the wrong side, that I have to now sleep on my left side because there's acid reflux if you eat before bed or whatever. Yep. And it will ruin your vocal cords. Yes. It'll burn your vocal cords. So I was unable to. I couldn't do Q-Bot for a long time because that just didn't exist because it was all shredded. So and I couldn't do Kermit the Frog because that same thing was gone, and it just sounded like rasp. So I said, okay, well I'm gonna sleep on your left side, and there's a little flap right here that will stop that from coming up. So when I catch myself sleeping on my right side, I wake up, I was like, oh no. And I go back over on my left side. So it's all learning the physiology of your instrument, like Dizzy Gillespie learned how the valves and the trumpet worked and how everything comes out. So if you're really, really serious about that, learn how to act, but also learn the physiology of your instrument as well.
Knowing what you can do and keeping it within that limitation. Along those lines, the newbies, the wannabes, they're the ones that go, I could do this voice. And it's like, can you do that for 12 minutes?
Let alone 4 hours for a session, yes.
Yeah. It's like people who do an impression, like, oh! See, I do Homer Simpson. Okay, great. But can you read the back of this as Homer?
Or improv as the character.
Because that's when that's when you can do Kermit the Frog. When you can, talk off the top of your head. You got to be able to do that as opposed to just, hi-ho. It's got to be more. So it's not just roll out. You got to be able to say the little things. You don't need the versatility of Wally Wingert to necessarily
or Neil Kaplan.
Thank you. To be successful. I mean, I always bring up James Earl Jones because he's got the vocal range of Y to Z. Not big. However, he acts the crud out of those roles. You won't mistake Mufasa for Darth Vader. So Wally said it, you got to be an actor first. You have to be able to play the characters before you can voice them. And that's the other thing. Wally and I will sit up here and we'll use shorthand, we'll use professional, we'll say we do voices. Wally doesn't do voices. Wally plays characters. And that's what I do. It's like if you've ever seen Billy West, one of the joys of my career was watching a table read for Futurama and watching Billy physically alter as he went from role to role. And even though he could do that when he was recording, he would do one role at a time. Because yes, he could be Superman and go from one to the other. But there's a chance that the production would pay the price because maybe he slips a little on that first word as he transitions. That's a neat thing to do as a stand-up or here on a panel, but when you're talking about a show that people are going to rewind and rewatch, and rewatch, you want to get it right.
Now, Seth MacFarlane is exactly the opposite. I've watched him like he has a panel of light switches. Go from Peter to Stewie to Quagmire to Brian to Peter to Stewie to Quagmire to Brian to Brian to Brian to Stewie to Brian. Flawlessly. He almost is so good at switching, and it was solid. He was almost so good that he almost overlapped himself, if you can believe that. But he was fantastic at that. And just watching him do that, and he was this 28-year-old kid at the time when we started Family Guy, just watching him hit these switches, like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So it just, whatever your process is, it just, if you want to do one role at a time and then move on to the second role, that's fine.
Well, I'm guessing he was like that because he was probably doing that since he was 3.
Yeah. And Frank Welker's good at that too, is doing multiple characters at the same time. He won't do one and then one and then one. He'll just do the whole thing. As
Alan Oppenheimer can do that.
Oppenheimer, yeah.
But I was like, I think there's other ways of changing your voice without like doing impressions and stuff. Like different
attitude,
inflections.
Yeah, it's just all what you have to bring. There's a guy named Lorenzo Music who had one voice. Here's this kind of guy that was on the original Garfield show. Hey, John, what's good? And that was his voice. He had one voice, but boy, he worked all the time.
Yeah.
At one period of time, he was on every radio commercial. He was on every TV show. He was on everything. He was Garfield.
He was
Ghostbusters. Yeah. He had one voice.
And the voice sounded the same, but the characters were different. Characters were different. And here's the other thing. Voiceover is not just animation. It's not just video games. One of the first things I tell my students when I have newer students is, I want you to write down 100 places where you find voiceover. What? And I said, just do it. Just do it. Notice when you're in the supermarket and you hear special today, or you're walking, or you get on the bus, please grab the handrail. All of these things were recorded by somebody. Siri was an actual voice that somebody recorded enough words that they were then able to stitch it together. So it's not just cartoons.
Yeah. Thanks for your question.
Thank you, sir.
Wally, all I have to say is you are my favorite voice actor for Riddler in the Arkham series.
Thank you.
Holy, Edward Enigma is such
I'm not
going to
tell John Glover that.
I love you for that.
Thank you very much.
For you, Neil, you are my favorite Toby voice actor.
Oh.
All right. I really, really loved it, and the suspense that you did with your voice is amazing.
Well, one of the fun things about doing Toby was that he had a mask.
Yeah.
And as we discussed yesterday, when you're doing anime and you can play a character with a mask, it lets you act. It lets you be free. It lets you honor the original translation more than I go with a overly illustrative idea of the line means I kill you to honor the death of my father. But the flip flaps go yibbity dibbity dig dog. We go with that silly little line. It's one of the things I don't get why we grew up watching Speed Racer and Kimba the White Lion, and we knew that those weren't made for us, or Raymond Burr in Godzilla, and the mouths and the words don't fit because we knew it was made somewhere else and voiced over here. We still were able to enjoy it. And personally, as an actor, I don't get the producer's addiction to lip flaps. Everybody knows it's anime. It's dubbed. Let us honor the writing sometimes. So I adore, when I played Optimus Prime. The first 2 shows that aired, I did my first convention in College Station, Texas, and the whole convention was in a room like this size, and they took a break and did a Q&A, and at one point, somebody raises their hand and goes, will we ever hear you say... what did he say? Oh, will we ever hear you say roll out? And this will tell you how much of a not Transformer fan I was. I said, is that a big deal? And the whole room went, yes. So I said, I'll make you this promise. Since Optimus Prime wears a face mask from this point forward, from this day on, I will say roll out at least once an episode. So if you go to YouTube and watch some of the episodes, if I don't say roll out, those were some of the first ones. And I was only able to do it because there was a mask. So thank you for your kind words for both of us.
And my question for Wally, how was it voice acting right beside Kevin Conroy for the Batman series?
Well, Kevin and I, we had known each other for years before I ever became the Riddler, but we never worked together. In video games, you record separately. Yeah. So all of Kevin's lines were done on one day, all of my lines were done on another day, and then they piece it together later. But it's, thank you, it's a compliment to the voice director who can make it sound like we're in the same room together, even though we could have recorded weeks apart, because he knows exactly how each line needs to sound because they know what the next line is going to be and how it all fits together like a puzzle. In the early days of Family Guy, we all recorded ensemble, which means we were all there together. But when Seth took on the producer-director role as well as the voices, he was on the other side of the glass. So we would basically just go in there and say our couple lines and off we'd go. And I always relied on him or whoever was directing, just tell me how you want it read. There's an aversion that some actors have to, don't give me a line reading, I'm the actor here, I'll tell you. I'm like, no, just tell me how you want it and how it's going to fit in with the rest of the puzzle, and off I go, and I'll take my money and go home and pet my dog. So I always I say, don't be afraid at all to ever give me a line reading. Tell me how you want it, let's both get out of here and we'll go have dinner.
That's like an early actor ego thing.
It sure is, yeah.
Because I used to have that as well, and especially in video games, the way I look at it is, if you know the painting by Seurat, that was made famous in Sunday in the Park with George, it's all done with dots. So if you go up close to the painting, all you see is dots. Yep. That's us as actors. The director is the one standing 50 feet back who can see the whole picture. Yeah. And we have to trust them because they know, yes, it may sound odd to you right now, but I know the scene. And that's what I need.
When the other lines get put in, it'll all make sense. So, yeah.
Now, who was your favorite actor that you ever heard yourself in a scene with?
Well,
that you did not work with directly.
Well, I had known Adam West for 37 years, but I got cast as the Frank Gorshin Riddler. I'm two Riddlers, by the way, in the last two animated films that Adam West did before he passed away. And I got to, I first met Adam in 1980 when I was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, but to be in his last two movies was beyond belief. So here I am doing Frank Gorshin, the Riddler, and you fiend Riddler. So we didn't actually work together, but I hear us together in the movie, and it's like, wow, Adam and I are we're at each other's throats. We're battling. This is really cool. And this is like my 5-year-old self was just giddy beyond belief. Then, in the second one, Batman vs. Two-Face, not only as King Tut Victor Bruno, I got to be in a scene with Adam, of course, as King Tut, but when he gets hit on the head and turns back into Professor McElroy, he's on the witness stand being cross-examined by D.A. Harvey Dent, played by William Shatner. So I got a scene with scenes with Adam, and I got scenes with William Shatner, two of my childhood heroes, so pretty fantastic.
Well, thank you for your questions and your kind words.
What was your favorite line that you did as Madara?
My favorite line as Madara, this is where I disappoint you all and say, honestly, for me, it was mostly a job. I would show up, I would read the lines, I would leave. The biggest thing I tried to bring to Madara was, and especially I established this with Toby, was if there was a contraction, I removed it. And not for the Mr. Data reasons from the Next Generation where he could not say a contraction. For me, I thought Madara was the character who had the kind of arrogance that if he had the chance to say more and hear his voice more, he would do that. And so every can't became cannot, So I would say, upon reflection, my favorite line, because he has so much darkness, but my favorite line was probably, you have the best gift one could have, life. And I like that line. It's finally positive. In my career, I have only remembered 2 lines. And one line was from a game called Destiny 2. And the line was just so powerful and dark that I couldn't ignore it. And it was, you're not brave. You have merely forgotten the fear of death. Allow me to reacquaint you. It's like, oh, that's some dark stuff. And the only other line I remember was, I strike from the shadows. And the only reason I remember it is because I looked at it, and for some reason I read it, I strike from the shadows. I just thought that was something Bullwinkle would say as a ninja. Ooh, look, Rock, he's got a throwing star. So anyhow, hopefully that was an okay answer. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
I did not realize you were Dominus Gall.
Oh, yeah.
Son of, I should have brought my Destiny.
Yep. Yep. No, I you know what? I think, and I don't know about you, Wally, but I think the greatest compliment I can ever have is when somebody goes, "That was you?"
Yeah. I love. That's what I've loved about this whole weekend is people come to my table and go, "You did him? Oh my God, you were John Arbuckle?
Wait, you were?
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, have you ever gotten this one at a convention? This is my favorite. People come up to my table and they look at all the pictures and they look at all the characters and they go, "Did you draw this?"
Yeah, are you the artist that
and it says Neil Kaplan, voice actor, and I go, "Yeah, my style's versatile, ain't it?"
Yeah.
So like, I was wondering if the Fourth Great Ninja War continued with Madara. Like, I was just wondering what were your thoughts would be like if Madara would continue instead of being sacrificed by Black Zetsu to summon.
Spoiler alert! I'm just saying, people haven't gotten there. He would defeat them all. He would basically say, "But what will you do about the second one, Onoki?" And then if that didn't work, he'd bring down a third asteroid. I mean, come on. Dude had lunar objects crashing into the planet. How does that guy get taken out by a galactic marshmallow? I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, I still remember recording that episode and then walking out and like leaning into Sierra's office and going, "Was that my last episode?" "No, I'm sure it's not." Because I'd like to know when my last episode comes up so that I can remember it. Yep, that was my last episode. Thanks, everybody. We got to clear.
Thank you much, everybody.